Over the course of this video, we've touched on several occasions about different kinds of sobriety tests. Let's talk about that for a minute, the science of testing, as it were.
Well, DWIs, there are two different ways under the North Carolina statute that the state can prove it. They can either prove you had a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater, even if you weren't physically impaired. Some people have a real high tolerance, and they could have a blood or a breath test at 0.08 and be walking around fine and show no signs of impairment. They're still legally guilty. Or the state's got to show that you're appreciably impaired. So you look at the science of it, and typically you're talking about a breath test. The old machine was an Intoxilizer 5000. It was radio frequency ran. North Carolina's just converted over to the Intox IR
Right.
C2, brand new initials. It's a chemical-based test rather than an infrared test. It's less accurate, so we're really having problems today with the breath testing. In addition, we've got blood tests, so they can take you to the hospital and draw your blood and send it down to Raleigh, and we've recently set up a lab in central North Carolina, and I think there's one in western North Carolina. So there's now blood testing labs that can run tests. North Carolina actually approved urine testing, although I haven't seen one come through yet. I handled a few urine tests back when I was a prosecutor too many years ago to even mention out in California, but it's never been a standard in North Carolina. North Carolina recognizes urine tests, but there's no facility set up to really do them yet.
What's this DRE thing? We were talking earlier about that.
Boy, I hate to even put it in this category because this category I call testing, and DREs is a drug recognition expert, and it's an officer who's gone to 20 hours of training and is going to come look at you and pronounce you impaired based on his training and experience.
Yeah, we'll get more of that in depth. Before we leave this topic, I have to ask once again, I know we've covered it several times earlier in the video, but again, what happens if you just say, I don't want to take this blood test, I don't want to take this urine test, I don't want to take this breath test?
Well, currently in North Carolina, it's legal to do that. There are some states that make it illegal to refuse the testing, but in North Carolina, you have a right to refuse testing, and in which case, the state is stuck with the evidence they have, which may be bad driving, it may not be bad driving. It may be field sobriety tests, it may not be field sobriety tests. I've got a lot of clients that have been involved in a minor accident. They may have a head injury, they get to the hospital, there's no way to do breath testing, so they want to draw their blood. And I've got clients that say, I'm not letting anybody near me with needles.
Right.
So you have a valid reason for refusing a test.
Might have a fear of needles or
Absolutely,
something.
and we see that.
All right, well, speaking of various types of tests, on our next segment, we're going to go in depth about breath testing.